Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome in. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar today, Building Employment Pathways for Youth Experiencing Homelessness. We're so happy to see you all here today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So we love to know who's here with us. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, pronouns, org, location, and an emoji to show how is your day going so far. My emoji is that sleeping guy. So just pretend I put him there in the chat for you. Please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the presentation. That way your question doesn't get lost in the chat, and we will have time at the end to answer questions. The policy brief accompanying this webinar, as well as the slides, will be dropped periodically through in the chat. So you'll have both of those PDFs kind of coming at you in the chat. But those resources, as well as a recording of this webinar, will be available later on this week or early next week on our website. And there will be a short survey following the webinar. Please consider taking some time to fill that out so we can improve for next time. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the policy brief and the issue that we're here to talk about today, as well as why it's important, and then some specific challenges faced by young people experiencing homelessness when accessing or maintaining employment. And then we will end with provider spotlights from three providers from across the country who are going to talk to you about their programs and some of the work that they're doing. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions. So if you're not familiar with us, we are the National Network for Youth, and my name is Trinity. We are a national organization working with young leaders and youth service providers, as well as advocates, policymakers, and more, all from across the country to prevent and end youth, young adult, and young parent family homelessness. And we also are a membership organization for individual or organizational members. Some of the perks include members-only webinars, executive sessions, discounts on training and consulting, peer-to-peer mentoring, and more. So please feel free to check out our membership page to learn a little bit more about that. I am very happy to be joined by four amazing speakers today. I'll just introduce them briefly, and then when they appear on screen, they will introduce themselves more fully, but we'll have Tori Ikeda, who is a member of our National Youth Advisory Council from Honolulu. We'll have Quaye, who is the Youth Services Director at YouthLink in Minneapolis. Courtney Smith, who is the founder and CEO of the Detroit Phoenix Center in Detroit, of course, and McCarthy, Vice President of Programs and Community Outreach at Breaktime in Boston. So this webinar is also accompanied by a policy brief release, our newest policy brief by the same name, Building Employment Pathways for Youth Experiencing Homelessness. So again, a link to this policy brief will be dropped in the chat kind of throughout the presentation. But this brief covers the things we'll talk about today, plus more information, including additional provider spotlights. And really what we're looking at is that too many young people experiencing homelessness are caught in this catch-22, where steady employment could help them exit a crisis situation, but being in crisis makes it incredibly difficult to find and maintain employment. And we know that we need to increase opportunities that support long-term economic and housing stability. And what we hope to emphasize both in that brief and in today's webinars, especially from the program spotlights that you'll hear from, is that it's not just about helping young people find the first job that they can. It's really about helping them make goals and build careers and really achieve their full potential in whatever way that means to them. And I think you'll kind of notice that theme in the brief, as well as from our speakers, this really holistic approach to employment, kind of being the end goal, but then all of the different things that go into achieving that goal. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tori to talk about the urgency of the issue, as well as some challenges that young people face.
Hi everyone, my name is Tori Ikeda. Like Trinity mentioned, I'm from the island of Oahu, and I'm a member of the Network for Youth's National Youth Advisory Council. And before we get into the nitty-gritty stuff, we want to talk about why this issue matters. So employment can perpetuate homelessness and poverty, and without stable employment, young people may not be able to meet their basic needs and maintain housing. So it's not just about covering rent today or next month. It's also being able to build a savings and respond to unexpected expenses like maybe a car repair or an unexpected medical bill. And that gap is often what turns a temporary setback into a prolonged or recurring homelessness situation. And we also know that a lack of stable employment is more broadly associated with poverty. So prolonged unemployment isn't just about someone's bank account, it's also taking a toll on their mental health. It raises their stress levels and it also reduces just their overall well being. And this can just make it so much more difficult for young people who are already trying to navigate adulthood and transition into adulthood and trying to get solid footing. And on the side, stable employment kind of just breaks that chain by promoting long-term stability. And when we expand access to employment opportunities, especially when that access is paired with fair wages, education, training, and jobs that are located in underserved communities, we can actually help to interrupt that cycle and not just trying to manage it and put a band-aid on top of it. And employment is also linked to improved mental health well-being and just a greater sense of independence and long-term economic mobility. And stable employment is one of the strongest protective factors we have against homelessness. And it's a key driver for long-term housing stability. So urgency and opportunity is kind of how we're framing things as we're walking through this today. So now that we've kind of established why this matters, let's get specific on some of the challenges that actually stand in the way when a young person experiencing homelessness tries to get and keep a job. And this isn't a comprehensive list of all the unique challenges that a young person may face, but it's just kind of a sample. And you folks can learn more about the other areas in the policy briefs. But the first barrier that really stood out to me is safety and health. Young people experiencing homelessness are often operating in survival mode. I definitely did. And sometimes that still comes up for me. When you don't know where you're sleeping tonight, when you're trying to meet basic needs, it takes priority over everything, um, including your safety and your health. When safe alternatives aren't available, young people may turn to these survival strategies. And this can look like shoplifting to meet basic needs, like trying to get food, you need toiletries. But also, young people can become extremely vulnerable to criminal exploitation, gang involvement, staying in abusive relationship, and exchanging sex for shelter or necessities. Whatever gets you those basic needs, and these behaviors are responses to extreme economic hardship. It isn't because it's a lack of motivation or it's not a character flaw. And this distinction really is how we design effective support for young people and move towards change to really meet them where they're at. And on top of operating in survival mode, young people experiencing homelessness also face higher risks of physical and mental health challenges, substance use disorders, and trauma and violence. And all of these things aren't separate issues from employment, they're directly connected to it. So a young person needs some sort of baseline level of safety and basic needs to be met before they can fully engage in the workforce. So asking someone to focus on a job search or to maintain employment while they're actively in crisis mode is like asking someone to run a marathon where they're still trying to catch their breath. So before we can expect a young person to focus on long-term employment, we have to help create that safety and stability to make that possible. And this can become cyclical where those pieces kind of connect into something much larger and make employment just as much harder and further away to obtain and even maintain. And it starts with housing instability that leads to unmet basic needs and trauma, which pushes someone into survival mode and just making survival based decisions, which can lead into like criminalization or exploitation or staying in those abusive relationships. And then it creates additional barriers to employment. And without employment, there goes our housing instability. And it just kind of continues on. The cycle just goes over and over until the hope, the idea, the prospect of employment, like it's no longer there. We're just sinking deeper and deeper into this cycle. And the reason this matters for policy and program design is that you can't intervene just at one point in this cycle and expect it to just break and everything fall through. If we only offer a job readiness program, but we don't address housing or safety, food, how are we going to do transportation? We're really asking someone to step into all five of these stages or all whatever number of these stages. Um, not just when they're stuck at, whatever point. Um, Also, vital docs can be a huge barrier, and it can also be easy to overlook. Um, but it kind of stops the process before it even starts, since you can't get a job without the documents that you need to prove who you are. So many young people experiencing homelessness may not have access to vital documents like a birth certificate, a government ID, social security cards, and these documents could have been lost, stolen, left behind. Someone could also be holding it, holding against them as like a form of control. And this means a young person can be completely ready and willing to work. They have everything set, but they could be locked out of that hiring process simply because they can't, come up with that piece of paper. And that's a solvable problem. And it's also one that we could support with. National Network for Youth has a vital document hotline. So it's one that can be supported for sure. So, given everything we've just covered, we also want to talk about what effective support looks like. And again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but you can find more federal policy and program improvement recommendations in the policy brief. Definitely for me, case management was a huge support for me. And for case management, definitely individualizing the support based off of each young person's unique needs, their strengths, their goals, not using a one size fits all model. My case manager, like I said, she was a huge player for me, a key player in supporting my stabilization and helping me get my basic needs met first so that I could focus on that long-term thinking about how to get a job. If I wanted to get a job, what would that look like? And that helped to pave the way um, for that stability and that hope. And so once my basic needs were met, I noticed I was more independent on the employment piece. I wasn't she really held my hand for the basic needs aspect, but the employment piece, I kind of reached out to my case manager only when I had major questions or needed support, like making a resume, or I had a random question about work. Otherwise, I wasn't really seeing her as often. I didn't, like I said, I didn't need as much support. I kind of ghosted her a lot. Um, Compared to what I did in the past. But she really individualized my support. She met me where I was at. She just reminded me that she was there if I needed. So that's what helped me in, like, I didn't feel suffocated, but I knew like no matter what, she would be there. Transportation is also a huge piece, and reliable transportation, reliable, consistent transportation. So if there's any supports through like a bus pass, transit vouchers, rideshare assistance like Ubers, or other supports that you folks can think of, it could be a difference between like keeping or losing a job. Um, in addition to being connected to reliable transportation, my case manager was also a temporary support for me in the sense of when I was looking for my first job, she took me to my interviews, and that ensured that I'd be able to make it there on time, but I also had a safe person to prep with me, to get all my nervous questions out and all those anxieties out before I went in, but also someone to debrief my thoughts afterwards. Um, Oh, and then it wasn't like a consistent, like she would be my only transportation. We set those ground rules, but just to have someone in that initial step really meant something to me, like to have that kind of safety around her. But also, that continued support didn't stop just when I got a job. She continued to meet with me afterwards. Um, and that continued support once a young person gets a job, I think is very crucial, that it just doesn't fall off, because that support, needs to continue afterwards to help to maintain like other aspects like housing, navigating workplace challenges, pursuing other long-term career advancements, and then also having any flexible financial assistance available so that a program or case manager can help young people address any urgent needs that may prevent them from either losing or like even maintaining their employment. Um, Also, getting a job is one great milestone, but then keeping it and growing from it is would be like the next. So career coaching offers personalized support to help youth identify and explore other career opportunities, to help make informed decisions about their future, and then what skills do they want to build off of. And this can also be done through case managers. Like I used mine as like a soundboard to flesh out where I saw myself career wise, like what pathways I wanted to go through, and then also having someone, and the right support in place when barriers come up is also critical. We're talking about, yeah, navigating those like workplace conflicts is huge. And then also, um, when those challenges arise, having someone to help you with that communication, I think that's another form of like career coaching, so that it can turn like it could prevent like a small workplace challenge from escalating into, job loss. And then also helps a young person build communication, problem solving, and then also self advocacy skills that are necessary to maintain employment. And then another thing to keep in mind are barriers that threaten employment, like housing instability or transportation issues resurfacing, or family crises, or a sudden gap in childcare. So these are kind of like the same underlying instabilities that we talked about earlier in the cycle, and they just don't disappear because someone got a job. They can resurface at any moment, and so having a safety net under a young person is really important. And then being able to offer continuous development opportunities so that a young person can have that upward mobility and isn't just their beginning job, or where they see themselves right here right now for the moment. There's different pathways they can go down. And then I will pass it to Trinity.
Sorry, I could my unmute was not popping up and I needed it to pop up. Thank you so much, Tori, for sharing that. And as Tori said, this is information that you can find in the policy brief that was just published today, plus a little more info in the policy brief as well. But now we're going to go ahead and shift to our other speakers, our providers from across the country, where they're going to talk a little bit about their programs and how they're helping young people get on those pathways and build those pathways to stable employment. So we're going to start off with Co, and I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again, Tori, for your story. That's every young person's story is a part of the journey, and a part of the work. So, it's great to hear, you know, how your experience and where you are and the people that you've trusted along the way has supported you along this journey. My name is Quaye. I'm the Youth Services Director here at YouthLink in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're right downtown Minneapolis. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be in this space and share this space with all you wonderful people. I see people in the chat from everywhere, Minnesota, California, Texas, Washington, Connecticut, AZ, California, um, Vermont, Massachusetts. It's everywhere. So it's phenomenal to see people all over the country doing such phenomenal work for our young people. Our most vulnerable young people. So a little bit about YouthLink. We're an organization that here in Minneapolis supporting young people between the ages of 16 and 24 experiencing homelessness and crisis. Um, a lot of our work is wrapped around services. The main piece of our work is through housing stability and holistic approach to supporting young people from A to B to Z to wherever they need to go. Our services are split between housing and youth services. And so we have a 46 unit apartment complex that's attached to our drop-in center. And so we provide housing, supportive housing programs in those apartment complexes, getting those young folks out of shelter and into spaces where they can get support with housing. We also have a drop-in center that's connected to our to that building as well. Our drop-in center sees upward to 120, 115 young people a day. And so that ecosystem looks like a hub for resources. And so it's a 35,000 square foot space where young people can come, where they feel seen, where they feel heard. They get their basic needs met. They get supportive services. They're able to engage in programming throughout the day outside of, living in survival mode. We create a safe space for youth to be themselves and to come in and get that trusting youth and adult relationship. And we also are able to get them those goals that they come originally for. A lot of our young people come through our doors with just their arms swinging and that's it. And so having to start from scratch to get them those basic and essential things to be able to start their process is huge and where we start. I like to explain what we do here as a ecosystem that supports that young person from A to Z. So a young person can come walk through our doors and not ever have any information about what we do. They come in, they do a low barrier intake. That intake is done at the beginning. That intake specialist matches that young person with a case manager. We have 6 specialized case managers that specialize in areas like mental health, chemical health, families, victimization, sexual exploitation, education and career as well. And so, as that intake specialist identifies their key needs, they're able to match that young person with the case manager that they can meet anytime that they come into the space. They know exactly who to come to. We have a plethora of basic needs. We're a huge basic need hub. So young people come to our space for laundry, for food. We have a laundry room with 5 washers, 5 dryers. We provide laundry pods, dryer sheets. We have 5 showers. Word on the street is that we have the best water pressure in the city. I don't know. I haven't taken a shower here. That's just what the streets say. We provide hygiene supplies. So we have soap for them. We have shampoo. We have razors. We have feminine hygiene products. We have underwear. Everything you can name when it comes to that piece. We have towels. So realistically, creating a environment where they don't have to bring their things or bring what they have to support within a space. We have all that here for them. We have storage lockers. So if they need to store, some of their personal items, a lot of our young people live in shelters. And I know a lot of you people, on this webinar work in those type of spaces. So understanding what it's like for a young person to walk into a space, and not be very comfortable putting their things there or leaving their things there. Like Tori said, we have it's a day-to-day story when a young person comes in and says, "Hey, my wallet was stolen," or my folder with my birth certificate or ID or whatever vital documentation that they have was stolen. And so now they have to start from scratch. And so we have all of that here in this space where they can, we have a vital document section where our case managers can connect them with their vital documentation, where they can get their vouchers to get their ID cards. If a young person has no ID, no birth certificate, we create something called a community card here at YouthLink. We print them off. We're partnered with the state and also with the county, so that young person can go to the government center with our community card and then start their vital documentation process, get their birth certificates, get an ID, and that kickstarts obviously the employment and housing process, right? So without those resources, a young person is really lost in the space here. And so when we're able to support with those basic needs, we can then identify, okay, what next is, that blaring need, and so that one-on-one case management is very recommended. Youth are required to have case management in the space. It's optional, right? It's just along with whatever they need in that moment, right? And so once that young person is comfortable enough to sit with that case manager and kind of start to tell that story and where they are, then they're able to, access the resources that we have. So a young person, if they have mental health needs or they're trying to get into treatment, we're able to, get those referrals in place, identify like what other needs they have, support them through those needs, but also being part of our program allows them to access their direct client assistance. So if a young person is, I'm looking for these resources for mental health, but like, I've fallen behind on rent. We have rental help support within our space. My phone bill is overdue. My phone bill is going to get turned off. We identify the direct client assistance needs that, fit for our demographic, right? So when it comes to phone bills, when it comes to rent, when it comes to, utilities and things of that nature, those are the things that are really going to set young people back and keep them disconnected from transitioning to the places that they want to be. So we like to jump in and provide support when we can with those young people, so they're not, consistently finding themselves in those tough spaces, right? And so being able to support them one-on-one is that key recipe to get them to those resources and get them connected. A couple other pieces that we have in the space, we have our partnerships are huge. We partner with Healthcare for the Homeless, and so we have a full clinic here in our space as well, and, with physicians that are here Monday through Thursday for those young families, those young parents, those young mothers who are expecting. We have, we have specific physicians that are in to support them as they go through the parenting process, the birthing process, making sure that they, are up to date on what they need in the space, because obviously a lot of young people between the ages of 16 and 24 aren't going to, clinics out in the community. They aren't going for their yearly checkups. They're not going for those things. So having a clinic on site creates an atmosphere and an environment where they already trust the supportive services and the people that are in the space. So when it comes to taking care of themselves holistically, they come here for their medical needs. And so our clinic is our real gym in our space when it comes to providing resources. Another huge piece of the work that we do here is being able to support when it comes to health and nutrition, food and nutrition. We have two chefs that are on site preparing meals. They prepare breakfast every day from 9 to 10. And then from 12 to 3, we serve a buffet style hot lunch. And so that's one of our biggest service deliveries, especially for those who are, living in areas where there are food insecurity and that are unsheltered. Being able to provide a hot meal for a young person who might not, receive a meal for the rest of the day is huge. And being able to create that connection through breaking bread, right? A lot of our case managers, as they start to work with young people, they maybe haven't eaten. They're looking to create that rapport. Relationship is our foundation on creating relationships and sustainable goal setting. A case manager who does not have a relationship with their client does not have success in our world, and so we are huge on building those relationships, building that rapport, building that trust, working with young people with a non-judgmental lens, and creating that safe environment where they can be themselves and really disclose things that they are going through so they can navigate and get that support moving forward. And so you will be surprised. I'm sure a lot of you already know, I'm preaching to the choir, how, the effects, or, how impactful sitting down with a young person or eating the meal and having a conversation could be, when it comes to building relationships. Also, we do a lot of work around outside of just housing youth, but stabilizing youth. And when it comes to stabilizing youth, that's where the education and career comes into play. We have a designated education and career case manager. So we're providing resources around, going to school, going back to school, finishing school, earning certificates, preparing them for interviews. We have an internship program here at YouthLink. Currently, we have 4 interns working in our space. Those interns have lived experience of those, so they either came through a program or in our program, or have come through a similar program in our community, and that are really, really passionate about the work that is going on and wanting to give back. So we open up internships to young people to gain that experience, gain some income, and be able to transcend themselves to that next level that they're hoping for. We also have our Voices of Youth Council. So we have a council similar to kind of where what Tori was explaining to, but young people who have lived experience who want to be able to be part of the work here, encompass the work that we do at YouthLink. We're a youth-led organization, and so we emphasize the youth voice when it comes to the work that we do. And so everything that we do goes through the lens of our Voices of Youth Advisory Council. They inform the organization on partnerships, procedures, protocol, and policies. And so those are the 4 P's of our Voices of Youth Council. And so there's nothing that goes in, etched into programming or etched into policy or, our partnerships without, sitting with the young leaders of VOYAC and kind of getting their perspective on that. And so I like to
Thank you
tell
so
people,
much, Co. So
yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to give you a 1-minute warning.
Gotcha. For sure. And so that's a lot of the work that we do in our space, and partnering and creating that ecosystem of collaboration really creates what we have here. And so, like I said, we have when it comes to the amount of space that we have, none of us can do this work alone. And so we partner with great organizations, great entities within the Twin Cities to really get this job done. And so like all you guys across the country, we know that we can't do this work alone. And if we want to end youth homelessness, we got to work together to make that thing happen. So appreciate you guys for the time, and thank you so much for all the work that you do. And I'll pass this on to Courtney.
Thank you so much, Quaye, for that wonderful overview of the wonderful work that you all are doing in Minneapolis. Thank you all for having me, the National Network for Youth. And Tori, thank you so much for grounding us so wonderfully and just lived experience and why the work that we do is so important. My name is Courtney Smith. I have the privilege of serving as the founder and CEO of the Detroit Phoenix Center. We're based in Detroit, Michigan. We're a growing organization. We're just approaching 10 years this year. And so we're really excited to name some of the programming that we offer. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just a little bit about us. Again, we're a growing organization. We respond to the needs of young people that are resilient, that are resourceful, primarily between the ages of 12 to 24. And we provide critical resources, we offer wraparound support, and we offer a nurturing environment to young people. One of the core tenets of our program is that we partner with young people, right, to break the generational cycle of homelessness and poverty. And we work very, very diligently for systemic change, and we contribute to the growing movement to end, prevent, and address youth homelessness and poverty. And though we impact about 2,500 youth annually through many pillars, right? So housing and basic needs. We have a rapid rehousing program that you'll hear a little bit about later. And also we operate drop-in centers throughout two local high schools in the city of Detroit that just provides a safe space for young people that are in the school system to drop in, to get a meal, to connect with our case manager, to connect around employment, education, housing. They may be able to get their basic needs, such as hygiene products or linkages to transportation, ID support, all the wealth of wraparound services that young people need to be successful and sustainable. Embedded within our programs are our mental health and wellness. It is a huge pillar within the work that we do. We believe that a young person's mental well-being is core, right, to their overall well-being. And so we offer one-on-one therapy through our partners with BetterHelp. We have a resident therapist that does weekly teen talks with the young people. And then we also cover other alternative forms of therapy that young people may need or may ask for, such as recreational things that they like to do, like going on a field trip or going into music or art therapy. Like all of those things to us are also very important. And then education and employment, which will be the focus for this particular presentation. We have a continuum of services that we offer to young people to meet them right where they are, not just a lot of different programs, but we've been very intentional about designing and baking out the services in the way in which we render our workforce development program so that young people, no matter where they are in their journey, are able to engage. And then similarly to our youth leadership and power building, we believe that it's just not enough to have young people voices at the table in order for us to really see young people mobilized and really achieving and seeing their dreams that they set and goals that they set for themselves. We have to be sharing power with them. And we do that through multiple ways, through our Youth Action Board, through our Young Changemakers Fellowship, and just core and essential to the work that we do. And then outreach and advocacy, we have a 40-foot mobile RV that goes around into our community that is fully equipped with a kitchen, a shower, a gaming, a space for case management. It's a youth center essentially on wheels, the first of its kind in our region, but it has been a huge pillar for the work that we do, a great point, an entry point for young people. Instead of us asking them to come to us, we are meeting them right where they are. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so for our workforce development spotlight, again, I mentioned that we have a continuum of programs, and for this particular program, because we have a really robust outreach strategy, a lot of our work tends to be wide. But what we like to think about our workforce development program, it is a deep impact program with multiple touches for young people. And so one is our Roots Rapid Rehousing program, which is a year-round program, right? We provide the housing linkages for young people, but they also have an employment specialist case manager connected to support them with employment placement, removing any barriers, right? They may have to employment, and then job readiness training as well, because a lot of times young people are put into the workforce without necessarily having the healing centered approach, right? That they need to be able to stay on the job. And so we're very intentional about making sure that work readiness is built in. And then we have strategic partners that we partner with within our community, specifically for our rapid rehousing residents. We have supported 14 young people this year through that program. And again, this snapshot is just for this year alone, this impact year. Another program that we're really, really proud of is our Young Changemakers Fellowship. And that program has 2 tracks. And that program is geared towards teenagers. So young people between the ages of 12 and 18. And we have 2 tracks. One is the Beyond the Ashes, which is our social enterprise track. And young people are able to build entrepreneurial skills and leadership skills through a curriculum we've developed with a consulting in partnership with a consulting company. And so they, learn how to lead a company. They're given titles like CEOs and and they develop a company and they design their own t-shirt and they host pop-up shops throughout the city of Detroit, and they're paid a living wage throughout this social enterprise track. The program is a 10-week program. I am so proud to say that this year they completed the program and we had 100% attendance because young people are invested. This is one of the programs that weren't necessarily on our radar, but it was birthed out of youth voice and choice. Young people were so interested in entrepreneurship. We wanted to create a pathway for that within our organization and partner with local organizations to do so. One year we hosted a pitch competition where we gave each of the young people, in addition to the amount of money that they got attending, they received $1,000 to start and launch their own businesses as well. The second track within our Young Changemakers Fellowship is our Detroit Youth Rising, is our storytelling lab. Young people develop skills in storytelling, media, communications, interviewing, and advocacy. I get really excited about this program because it's a podcast and you can listen to it. It streams on all of the major platforms, but the young people, they develop the platform, the podcast from scratch. And it's so interesting because to see them start from season 1 to season 6 now that we're in, it's just been incredible. But it is important, right? The young people, they can see themselves, right, as entrepreneurs. They can see themselves as storytellers and creatives and advocates. And we want to be able to nurture, right, and connect those interests to skills that can turn into real opportunity and that can produce something very tangible for those young people. The next program that I would like to share about is our Alumni Fellowship. It is a paid 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month fellowship that places young people who are alumni of our organization into departments within Detroit Phoenix Center based off of their career interests, particularly those who are namely interested in human services. Fellows, they earn a living wage of $20 an hour, while they gain hands-on professional experience, mentorship, and career development. This is so important because it really does create a bridge between young people being recipients of aid and agents of change, or if they're just participating in the program, but then functioning within a professional environment. We want young people to leave that fellowship to say that they actually did something that was meaningful and that they contributed and that they held a leadership position that was reflective, right, of their skills and their resourcefulness and their resilience and even their brilliance, right? So another program that is really dear to my heart, which is actually a program that was started before the organization actually launched, is our Youth Action Board. I know many people on this call have Youth Action Councils or Youth Action Boards, and we really do underestimate the power of that being a bridge right into the workforce. I am very proud to say that I was a member of the National Youth Advisory Council for the National Network for Youth many, many, many moons ago. So my heart is bursting with pride for Tori and many of the other young people that take advantage of these opportunities that serve as a bridge, right? And so our Youth Action Board is a 10-month year-round youth leadership and advocacy board. They receive $75 per meeting, along with additional funding, right, for speaking engagement. And then what's important with this board is that it's totally like youth led. And each month focuses on developing different leadership skills, different advocacy, like they really identify what it is they want to focus on alongside of a service project and an advocacy focus. And then what we begin to see is that those skills, right, they translate into other skills that are transferable, like public speaking and facilitation and relationship building, that are all transferable skills that young people can use, right, in the workforce. I feel like I'm going so fast. Oh, 2 minutes. Okay, wonderful. So I'm not talking too much. Okay, wonderful. So something that I would like to name is just some really quick things that we've learned. One is to create multiple entry points, right? Young people are not a monolith. They have different experiences and different levels of readiness or even interests, right? And so we want to make sure our programs reflect that. Compensate young people whenever possible. We cannot have a webinar and not talk about economic mobility without consistently providing young people and compensating them for their expertise. And then also build a pathway. So the way that this often works is that some young people may go through our Summer Leadership Academy and then they join the Young Changemakers Fellowship. And then from the Young Changemakers Fellowship, they join the Youth Board. And from the Youth Board, then they join our Alumni Fellowship. And then we don't want them to stay in our program. We want them to be able to go out into the world and take all of those skills that are transferable to do good work in and within their community. Thank you all so very much. And I am going to pass it over. Oh, you could go back to the last slide, the other slide really quick. So these are just some quick points. Summer Leadership Academy has a curriculum. All of our programs offer wraparound supportive services, and we work to remove the barriers to employment. So I'm going to pass it over to Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Courtney. And just quickly, thank you so much to Tori. I really appreciate you opening this up and providing, I think, some of the context for why this work is so important. And Co and Courtney, I got questions for you. You guys are doing some awesome stuff. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I use he, him pronouns. I am from Breaktime. I'm the Vice President of Programs and Community Outreach. We're based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and we serve young adults who are, hey, I see another Massachusetts person. We serve young adults who are 18 to 24 plus at intake and go up to about 27 to 28 throughout our program model. So you can go to the next slide. I'm going to give you guys a very quick overview of some of the work that we do and our mission. Our mission is to break the cycle of young adult homelessness by equipping young adults with the job and financial security they need. We provide employment directly. In addition to wraparound services, financial supports, we also have a resource hub that not as cool as Co's, but that we've been building out over the last year as well. But today I'm going to really focus on some of our employment programming. I think it's a fairly unique model. And so I want to give you guys a little bit of the kind of nuts and bolts for how that works. Next slide, please. So our employment program model has three parts, which are Launchpad, Liftoff, and Stable Orbit. We kind of have like a space terminology thing going. What that looks like is we provide 3 weeks of workplace readiness, or sometimes 6 weeks broken over a slightly different schedule, but to really reinforce the critical soft skills that are most important for young people to be successful in a job, but also to start to understand some of their strengths and figure out ways that we can help to leverage those through employment, and also understand some of the young people's barriers, whether we've done that through intake or through our Launchpad program, really helps to get folks set up for success as they think about moving forward with employment. We have a 3-month liftoff program, which is a paid job placement, which I'll talk more about, and it's really what I'll focus on today, which these placements are with local nonprofits, different businesses. And then we do not leave folks off and say, well, you got your 3 months of experience or you got your first job. Good luck from here. We will follow young people for 3+ years with continued wraparound, career, academic, housing, and financial support through our Stable Orbit program. Next slide, please. So real quick, talk a little bit about Launchpad. I won't go long on this, but our Launchpad is traditionally either 3 weeks of classroom-based training or 6 weeks of online learning that's broken up into smaller parts. We focus on the 6 essentials of success and how to really help folks to understand how to leverage some of these things, understand the importance, understand what it looks like in a modern workplace. Those are listed there. Again, really designed to provide workplace readiness and offer some education around how to navigate the modern workforce. Next slide, please. Our liftoff program, which again, I'll go a little bit more in depth on, is a really unique part of our program. It's 3 months of supported employment with a local nonprofit or small business. Young adults earn 20 plus at least $20 an hour, and they work for 20 to 30 hours a week within those placements, gaining a lot of valuable work experience, and they get to they work continuously with what we call their coordinator of young adult services. So our young adult services team provides like a really high level of support. They support our matching process, and then are checking in with folks weekly at least while they're on the job. Next slide, please. I brought way too many slides. In terms of liftoff, some of the things I want to focus on, in terms of our partners, it's a really awesome opportunity to get folks that are trained up with really critical soft skills that have a really high level of support and a great support system to meet some of their staffing needs. And so we identify partners that way. There's a much lower risk with the supported placement than what folks see in other kind of entry-level roles. It's also a much shortened recruitment time. We do a lot of the screening and a lot of the matching process. And then a big benefit is we cost share 50-50. So our partners actually provide $10 an hour for the young folks. We provide $10 an hour for young people. So it's a really awesome opportunity for nonprofits and small businesses to actually like try out growth. Like we haven't been able to maybe fully afford this position, but we have a real need, and this is an opportunity for us to kind of try it out and see if we can make that something more temporary. We also see much stronger retention and performance through kind of the support systems we have in place. For our young people, it's an awesome real world at a company with a boss, with a supervisor, just like we all have opportunity to build some of those soft skills. We also have built-in feedback. And yes, for folks, I'd love to connect. We'll put my email in. Feel free to shoot me an email afterwards. We build in feedback cycles at the 2-week mark to see how things are going, at the halfway point of the placement, and at the end of the placement. And that middle one actually is with the manager, the young person's case manager, the young person, someone from our workforce team, to really like say like, hey, what coaching is needed here? What's going great? Where can we make some adjustments? A couple of things I just want to double tap because I know some of you are in this field and are interested in this type of programming. The cost sharing, which I already touched upon, we do provide transportation for young people. So in Boston, that's an MBTA pass or a T pass. But we actually will also provide more than that if a young person needs additional transportation support. So sometimes it's customized or kind of one-on-one, individualized, if you will. But that might mean a commuter rail pass, which is like a different cost. But while folks are at their site, we'll at least make sure that they have access to public transportation for that site. Other things I just want to highlight are a lot of our young people go temp to perm. So they start with their 3 months in this role, but they go temp to perm. For those that don't, they have an amazing 3-month job opportunity that was set up essentially as a temp job that they can use to go and leverage and get their next job. So it's 3 months of great experience they can put on their resume. And next slide, please. So before I jump into stable orbit, one thing I will double tap is we have a match savings program for folks while they're in liftoff. So while they're with us, they can contribute up to $75 a week, and we will match that in their savings. If they go through the whole entire program, we double match it. So most folks are saving about $1,000 of their own money. We're matching that $1,000 each pay cycle, and if they complete the program, they're getting all of that in one cash out. So for most young people, even though Boston is an insanely expensive place to live, First, last, and security can be usually acquired through that program. As I mentioned, we do 3 years of continued support through Stable Orbit. We provide monthly check-ins, huge double tap to what Courtney said. We pay for that expertise. So when we connect with folks to see how they're doing and how our model can do better and what they need, we pay them for those check-ins, which is really awesome. I know I'm almost done, but next slide. Just a couple of quick kind of overview of what we were able to accomplish last year. We served about 400 and almost 50 young people across 2025. About 10% of our young adults come in with some type of stable housing, but they may have been homeless within the last year or at risk for housing security. For the folks that are in our Stable Orbit program, over 75% have moved into stable or medium-term housing, which is a huge, huge shift. Most of our young people are earning over $19 an hour after they leave our program. The employment piece is a huge part of it, but I do want to just double tap. Like, the real driver of this is the case managers, the folks that are doing this one-on-one work. Every young person is different. The needs are different. The resource hub, which is actually, like other folks mentioned, where we're making sure folks have food and hygiene products and a place to shower, and a place to get clothing, and do laundry before they're worrying about these things. And the one last thing I'll add is we are an employment program. We pay the young people. They actually are they're employees of record for us at Breaktime. What that means is we are able to, as the employer of record, we're able to, there's a lot of flexibility there where, like, if we were working with a partner or anything else like that, we don't necessarily have that. The resource hub, what I was going to say, I'm sorry, last thing, is that because we are an employment-based program, a lot of the work that we do in our resource hub is helping folks to get all of the documentation that they need to start work. So I just want to triple tap what everyone else said about that documentation often being a place that holds folks up. But we have ways, and we will actually pay for it. And it's something that, like, doesn't come with them into the program. It's just like, we want to make sure that the ID stuff is covered. And we try to do as much of that work through the resource hub as folks are coming into our program, because they actually need it to start. But we will work with them through that process as well. So that was a ton of information. I think I'm out of time. Here's a little bit of outcomes data. There's a couple of slides that if I had time, I would walk through. But here you can kind of see the shift that we've seen in folks in terms of stable and medium-term housing as they move through our model. I won't go into the hub stuff, but thank you. This is a little bit about our resource hub, and there's like 2 more slides, but folks, if you get the deck, can look through those. There's some outcomes data and things like that. But thank you so much, everybody, for the time today.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I know we're so happy to see all of the enthusiasm and great questions for our presenters in the comments and in the Q&A. Here's what we're going to do. If you have any lingering questions for our presenters today, go ahead right now as I close out, put them in the Q&A box. And what we're going to do is we're going to collect all of those and then send out all of the answers in written form to everyone who registered today. So go ahead and put any last questions or things you have in that Q&A box. And thank you, huge thank you to our presenters today. Just have a few NN for Y specific announcements to share with you. First, I think you heard a lot about our hotline. Hopefully everyone knows about it, but please help us spread the word. This is a free text or call hotline for young people who need help getting their state IDs, birth certificate, social security card, any kind of form of identification. Young people can call, or, if you're a provider or you're a McKinney-Vento liaison, you can call on behalf of the young person or text and speak for free to a lawyer about what steps are needed for that young person to obtain their vital documents. We also want to make sure you all know about our next upcoming webinar, which is our Know Your Rights series. So if you're not aware, we did a Know Your Rights toolkit a little while back that goes into all of the different rights that young people have in different issue areas. So this webinar is going to be specifically about the rights of immigrant youth who are experiencing homelessness, taking place on August 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So feel free to register for that as well as check out our toolkit. And finally, I want to make sure everyone knows about our raffle. You have until the end of this month to enter for a chance to win 2 round-trip tickets worth up to $1,250. And all of the proceeds go directly to NN4Y and to our work so that we can continue to produce policy briefs and webinars such as this one. So thank you again. As I mentioned, we will send out the slides, the recording, the policy brief, and the written answers to all of your questions. So please feel free to put those in the Q&A. You have like 5 more seconds to do so, and we'll get all that information out to you. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Please sign up for our listserv if you haven't done so already, so you can stay up to date on what we're doing, other webinars we're doing, as well as federal policy updates impacting young people experiencing homelessness. Thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.